Hi friends, today we're taking a quick look at the new prototype brushes from Rephr. They are venturing into synthetic brushes, all synthetic. These are not hybrid, and a huge thank you to them for sending me these prototypes. And if you are not familiar with Rephr, they are a brand who likes to collaborate with their consumers and would like to bring the best of said category to their consumers. They first started off with Japanese made brushes. That was the kickoff product for the brand. They're looking into other items as well, but they wanted to get into synthetic brushes. As Rephr operates with an exchange program, you can get a brush at a significantly reduced price as long as you provide feedback in terms of the brush's design, its feel, its function. And through that exchange, over 100,000 reviews have been submitted from professionals to makeup enthusiasts and everyone in between in order to provide these different shapes that are now existing within the Rephr brand. And one of the #1 suggestions that were made is to create synthetic brushes. Now, these brushes are not made in Japan. I know, gasp, don't click off the video, there's an explanation, family. The brand set out to use the best synthetic fibers now made in the industry, and apparently these synthetic fibers are made by an American company, but these synthetic filaments are manufactured in China, thus why these brushes are made in China. Correct, these are not made in Japan. They are synthetic brushes that are made in Japan, but these are not. Rephr understands that natural hair brushes are goated for powder application. So all of their natural hair brushes are still and will still be made in Japan until further notice. I don't know anything about what's happening in the future, but they are sure to let us know if they make that manufacturing change. I highly doubt it because they know and acknowledge when it comes to a seamless powder blend, natural rules in that department, but they also understand from feedback received by us that synthetic fibers do have a role in impeccable liquid and cream applications simply because synthetic fiber brushes are more resilient against high frequency washing. If you are a pro, you are more likely to wash your brush every day, right? After you are finished with applying or using your brush on every face for that day. Natural brushes don't have the same resilience, and in addition, synthetic brushes are able to maintain their shape for far longer and of course not absorb as much product as natural hair brushes do. And if you're one who simply prefers synthetic brushes, then Rephr is venturing out in trying to perfect their designs and why these are prototypes. Funny enough, when I first received these brushes and opened them, I thought these were natural goat hair. Yes, I was surprised to discover that these are all synthetic, and I think this American company who develops this synthetic fiber set out to create a filament that mimics natural Tuckahoe goat hair. That's my impression from when I first saw the brush and when I first used the brush. Before we get into the B-roll and my thoughts on this release, this entire bundle is available for $36 and will be today, 12 p.m. Eastern on the Rephr site. The competitive price for a synthetic foundation brush is around the $25 to $30 mark. It's almost like you're paying just for the B02 foundation brush and you're getting the other two for free in the bundle. Now, as you know, I love to give you the demo, so I have a few here, and I'll start off with B02. B stands for base. There is 01, 02, 03. 01 surprisingly is the smaller base brush. You have the classic matte brushed finish for both the handle and the ferrule, and you have a slight angle with a dome top. And of course, I went into my Suqqu foundation and used the B02 to apply. Here was my first observation. This brush is great if you apply it in the circular fashion that you see here on the demo. I don't like how it feels when I'm punching on foundation, and this is something I recognize, a trade-off, if you will. When synthetic fibers are developed to mimic natural hair ones, the characteristic natural fibers have over synthetic ones is that the natural point of that fiber is left untouched, and a lot of these synthetic brushes are laser cut or cut in whatever way in the factory to yield said shape, but they're trying to mimic that fine tip because that fine tip, I think, is what determines and what yields that smooth blend from powder products. I don't know if that's required for cream and liquids because it's a different medium altogether. I think the fine tip is essential for powder application, perhaps not so much for liquid and cream foundation, and that's why this brush, when pounced on in that manner, feels prickly. So if you're one to pounce on your foundation, I don't think you will be happy with the B02. So if you're one to pounce on your foundation with a dense brush like this, it is quite dense. I would categorize this as medium to high density. It has nice movement right around the skin. I would use this brush to apply my foundation in a circular fashion to buff it into the skin. If you want to pounce on foundation, I would choose a brush that's softer or has a synthetic fiber that doesn't mimic goat hair, but it's just PBT or whatever it's called, the technology that a lot of these synthetic brushes use. And maybe it is because although it's synthetic fibers and the brushes that are synthetic in my collection that are made in Japan don't feel like this. However, I don't have, well, with the exception of the Wayne Goss collection, when he released that small edit synthetic collection, his fan brush is a fan brush for foundation. So I again painted on my foundation. I didn't slap it on. And I don't have a synthetic brush that takes on this same design that's made with synthetic fibers. I have to go through my collection. But that is my one critique, because if we go back, Rephr did have their 31, which kind of is similar to the new B02, but the 31 is a mixture between synthetic and natural, and you do still detect a little more prickliness from this brush, and I think it's because it's made with also natural hair. But I feel this brush shines more in the circular method versus the pounce. Now, are you going to get a rash from pouncing on? Absolutely not. But if you are on the more sensitive part of the skin spectrum like myself, you will detect the prickliness a little bit. And again, I think it's because this company set out to create a fiber, a filament that mimics Tuckahoe goat hair. And some of you had said with foundation brushes made with Tuckahoe goat hair, when you pounce it on, it feels a little prickly. So that's what you're going to get. That's the trade-off. The B01 is a smaller version, and you can see it has the same angle as the B02, but much smaller, round ferrule. I immediately thought of concealer under the eyes. Unfortunately, this is not my favorite brush. Because it is so dense, I found it difficult to apply the concealer in the windshield wipe fashion. I had to go in with the pounce, and that's where I detected a lot of prickliness from this brush. And because it is so thick, I had a hard time going in a circular fashion, because my skin here moves a lot more than the greater cheek and jaw area for the rest of my face. I had to go down in the paint method when I had the majority of the concealer blended here, and then I went down in this fashion just to eliminate that prickly sensation. Didn't feel as much, of course, when I went in with concealer to tackle the blemishes on my cheeks and jaw. I would say to offset the feel of prickliness for Rephr is to not make this brush as dense. Perhaps it better to not make it round but flatter, so you have a little bit of density but it's flat, and you could go in this manner and then use the flat side of the brush to pounce on concealer. I think that will feel a lot better, because I have the number 36 on standby. This was a popular concealer brush, all natural hair, but because of how it's designed and this angle here from base to tip, the tips of the bristles naturally push down as you press the brush onto your skin, so you eliminate that feel of prickliness just based off the design and how the brush lays on under the eyes. And I think that is an advantage, and I rather use this brush, although it's natural hair, yes, over the B01, because this is a lot more comfortable to use on my skin than the B01. And the 35 here, similar to the B01, but you see that it's a longer bristle, therefore a lot more movement. And I still feel a little prickliness from this, but because it's longer, I'm able then to go in with a more windshield-like fashion as I had wanted to with B01. The longer bristle length allows for that fluid motion to occur, and why again I would pick this over B01. Now, if you're one to wear cream contour or bronzer, like if you have the Makeup Forever HD face palette, you could use B01 to paint on your contour. You could also use it to plant some cream product here down the sides of your nose. So there is use for this brush, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I know a part of us investing in these brushes and whatnot is that we want a well-rounded experience, right? We want the makeup to look good, but we also want the brush to feel good on our skin. And lastly, we have the B03, which likens to their original 05. Rephr wanted to create a synthetic brush, an eye brush specifically to be used with cream eye products, and I used with a few here. Now, based on the brush's length, I immediately thought of a softer formula found in Charlotte Tilbury's Eyes to Mesmerize pot. This is a softer, moussier formula that I think the B03 is designed to pick up, right? Because it is a flexible brush, so I thought it would be tougher to work with textures that are tougher in the pan, but as you see here in the B-roll, it picked up the product well and it beautifully applied it on my skin. Again, because of the finer tip, you will predict a little bit of prickliness here, as some people had told me with the eye brushes that yes, Tuckahoe hair is soft, but it's not the softest on the hierarchy of natural bristles that I learned from in Japan. And I detect that as I brushed Oyster Pearl through my crease, but nevertheless, it got the product from the pot to my lids. I wanted to experiment with a tighter formula, and I went in with Pat McGrath's Chromolux, and I think my success was largely due to the Chromolux formula that is quite soft, softer than a lot of these metallic finish pot formulas out there in the eye product category. It was able to pick up the product successfully and blend it successfully across my lid and crease. Now, unfortunately, this brush is too soft for tighter textures like was found here in the Vital Surgeon's Flash Fluorescence product in Wild Wisteria. I would have to use something far denser and probably forego a brush altogether and just use my fingers. And I also wanted to try Natasha Denona's Crystal Top Coat. This picked it up some, I think enough for what the top coat is meant to do and just be worn as a wash of sparkle. And I thought it picked up the product well enough so you could see that reflectivity on my lid. From the demo and from me using these brushes, I would say that the B02, this guy here, will be more successful if it was designed as a paddle brush instead of a round buffer, or to make the angle a little more sharp, because as I explained with the 36, the reason why, although this is natural hair, you're not able to feel the prickliness as much is because of how the bristles are cut. If you can mimic a similar design, and I'm sure you're like thinking, oh, like the BK Beauty brush, largely I think why that brush is so successful because of how it's cut. You just have a wider surface area, and because of the angle, the tips of the fibers will bend naturally as you press the brush against your skin. Angle is not as sharp and more flat. The bristles will then come in direct contact with your skin. It won't have that same bend, and therefore you will feel more of like that prickliness from the brush. However, if you're one to not pounce on foundation, then you can just apply it in a circular fashion, which I think the B02 is successful in. It doesn't absorb as much product as the 31 because the 31 is made with some natural hairs, and it's going to move the product well across the skin, and you don't have to use as much because it's synthetic, so it won't absorb as much product as natural hair do. The B02, again, instead of being domed, maybe a little flat on both sides, so you could apply it in a paint down fashion and then use either side to pounce on if you prefer to apply your concealer in that way, or maybe you don't mind and you like the rounder surface area to pinpoint any blemish coverage that you need to tackle during your foundation step. Or as I mentioned before, if you'd like to paint on your cream contour or bronzer around the forehead, down through the cheekbones, or down the sides of your nose, B01 can do just that. The B03, I think, successful in the cream products, albeit the softer, more moussier, liquidy types of eye products. As an example, again, the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize. I have the Sydney Grace here on standby. Another one that comes to mind is the Danessa Myricks Color Fix product, where you could apply that on eyes, face, or lips, but because of the more liquidy texture, the B03 will be successful in picking up the color fix and applying it on your face, eyes, or cheeks, upper lip. So that is my feedback for the new prototypes, and I don't want you to see this video as a convince to buy, because I understand that I have a lot of Rephr videos on my channel and I like ones more than others. I'm sure you have seen. That's my critique for this release. This is a prototype release, as I'm curious to find out what your thoughts are if you decide to buy this bundle, because my skin is different from yours. I could only share my experience, but based on what I've experienced with other brushes in various categories, from various categories I should say, and the majority of my synthetic brushes that I have used are made in Japan. The only other ones that are not are my BK Beauty ones that are made in China as well, and a few of the Eastern brushes that I think are also made in China. And I think it's mainly because a lot of this synthetic fiber technology is mostly manufactured in China, and the Japanese made filaments, I don't know how they differ. Apparently, Rephr felt that the American brand was better than the Japanese brand. I wouldn't be able to tell you because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I can tell you for sure the most expensive synthetic foundation brush that I have that was generously sent to me by Beautylish during one of their gift card events is the Tuckahoe JG2 foundation brush. This synthetic fiber is designed to mimic gray squirrel, and on the natural bristle hierarchy list, gray squirrel is a lot softer than goat hair, and this retails for $45. This is more higher end synthetic, and I could only imagine the Westman Atelier brushes are higher end, the Ray Morris brushes also on the higher tier of synthetic foundation brushes, and you cannot feel an ounce of prickle on this brush. This is soft, but again, gray squirrel is softer than goat hair anyway. Naturally, this will feel softer than this synthetic brush, right? I also think it's because the bristles are longer. See how they bend more as I push them against my skin? This doesn't bend as much. Probably that's why they designed it with a little bit of an angle, but maybe if it was more of a severe angle. Or I vote for the flat side. What do you think, fam? I'm thinking, hold on. This is the Tuckahoe from the Takumi series, the T11. I'm thinking this design for the B02. And see, you could pounce, but you're not gonna feel as prickly because you're going in on the flat side. But you could still go on in a circular fashion. You could go on paint down. This, I feel, this shape design, a little more versatile than the round shape, in my opinion. Again, based off what I've used. But yeah, that's my feedback. Let me know what you think down below. Again, you don't have to buy this. Maybe you wait and see what the general feedback is, and share your thoughts down below what your experience has been with other synthetic brushes that are made in China, made in Japan, or made in the US. I'm not sure which brushes, synthetic ones, are made in the US, but let me know if there are. I'll look into it. Again, a huge thank you to Rephr for sending these over for the review. I'll see you down in those comments, and until then, friends, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Rephr brush review, or now investigating more synthetic brushes made from various regions of the world. Take care, and I will see you again soon.